morning, Martha. Hope you're doing well. Mutasobola okuveera nga adduka emmotoka najja n'anywa amafuta. Ate ku busozi it's a very bad thing okulinnyirako omuliro oba oyonoona amafuta. Naye nga ne time gye weewa head start terina kyamakulu kyekuwa. Olwo ku Buserengeta omuntu we yali badde addukira kuba aba mu giya ntono, kati nga nze mbeera mu ndobo. Mathematics. Hi, Mr. Mukisa. I hope you're doing well. So today we talk about 4 cars as we want to buy our next ride. Yeah. So often we think that buying a car is as simple as waking up in the morning when you have 5 million and you say it's not. Onazadduka anywedde amafuta ku busozi. I'm still behind him. Nyinza n'omuyisa ate ne muyisiza ne mu ndobo. Kuba nze ndi mu ndobo ye alinnya muliro. It's mathematics. Good morning, Nathan. So we're going to be talking about focus today, and focus in terms of I want to buy my next car, and I'm going to concentrate on making that long-term goal happen. You see how my long-term goal is to actually go to Toyota Uganda and buy myself a Kavera car, which take it, and I'm concentrating on that slowly by slowly. I can. That's a Mitsubishi Outlander. It's the same as the Mitsubishi RVR, which take it. It's a very, very lovely car. It looks really nice. Mujiraba, it's beautiful. But like most of those Mitsubishis that have the GDI engines, yeah, their problems are normally electronic. They never really have problems with the gearbox. They never really have problems with the suspension. Which their problems are normally electronic. And then there is that kajetwaitanga chiyenje. But you see, that's like one of the first Corollas we had in Uganda. That one. So that one is the Jaja of my Corolla. Yeah, that's the Corolla SE. I think in the engine they buy it over 2E. Yeah, wa 5E. Kati obwemu ku Morocco bwasookawo nga tebunywa amafuta ngira bagamba bannange ka Corolla ako bwobeera nako it doesn't consume fuel. Get yeah, so today so many aspects in our life, like with everything we want to achieve, and because, well, it's the beginning of the year and most of us really want to upgrade our cars one way or another. Arthur is going to put a new engine in his car. He's probably going to upgrade the interior, probably put a new year, a bumper or something. And it's about you being able to afford it, but it's about you doing it at the right time. And the right time is always something that doesn't just happen in the morning. You wake up at 6 a.m. and you say at 10 a.m. I'm going to buy another car. You get, it doesn't just happen like that. Some of these things that we do, because they put a dent in our pocket, and it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, buying a new car is not something that leaves you the same. You go to the bond and buy a car at 35 million, that's 35 million that is not going to come back anytime soon. And even if you were to sell that car, chances are high that you will not sell it at 35. Which take it, you may either sell it higher or lower, but not at exactly that amount. So trust me, there are chances that that amount that you have spent on buying a new car is not going to come back, which is why it needs to be something that you do in the long term. So when you want to say, let's say I want to buy that Harrier Kawondo, the focus should not actually be on buying the Kawondo. The focus should be on buying not the focus should not be on the Kawondo itself, because when the focus is on the Kawondo itself, then what you're doing is you're stimulating excitement. You get, the focus should be on being able to buy the Kawondo and having more money on the side. You get, because if the focus stays on the Kawondo itself, oh my god, I want a Kawondo, oh my god, I want a Kawondo, oh my god, I want a Kawondo, then the focus, you will stop focusing on the important things. And I'm sure this has happened to everyone. I remember when we were going to buy a car with Brian. Brian came with a thought of, I want comfort, I want beautiful interior. That's what was on his mind the entire time. So we looked at Nadia's, and then finally we saw this car, the Mark II Grand, and he said, "Asayaga de kugamba na Mark II Grand yo yendio bongo." It had a very nice interior, very nice body. It was a UAU, and this person said, "I'm selling it 9 million." I think it was 9 million, and then that was way out of our budget. But this car ticked all the boxes. And even when it was out of his budget, hi Ragnar, even when it was out of his budget, Brian said, "Arthur, I'm buying this car. Njigula obachi obachi." And I told him, you know what, go back and think about it. Because I realized our focus should have been, okay, we are buying a car that is comfortable enough in the budget that we have. That should have been our focus. Okay? But the focus was, I'm buying a car that is comfortable. That was Brian's focus. And indeed, when he saw this Mark II Grand, which ticked all the boxes and more, the budget flew out of the window. You get what I'm saying, guys? For us to buy our next car, for us to literally achieve any goal that we have set our mind to, we need to focus on the important things. You get, it's and trust me, as I'm saying this, it's not that I've achieved the ultimate maximum focus ability. No. I'm learning as we discuss this, and trust me, these are things that I've been teaching myself over time. Hi Safina. And focus is something that we need to teach ourselves all the time. You get, because we get distracted. There are things that happen in our life all the time. I have someone that I've been chatting with on WhatsApp, and her point is, Arthur, I want. She's still abroad, but she's saying, Arthur, I want to buy that car and keep it at home before I come back, because when I come back home, I may get distracted. A lot of problems might come up, and I may decide that I'm not going to buy the car anymore. And I'm sure we have all been at that point, right? Where you think, okay, I need to do this and do it now. If I don't do it now, I may never do it. You get? Now, apart from it being that this is your thought process, or this is the process that you go through to do things, because we have to understand that there are people that handle their lives that way. That when I decide that I'm going to buy that car, I will go and buy it immediately. If I don't buy it there and then, I may not buy it. You get? And this happens mostly when we are still when we are still at a point in our lives, everything is for. You don't have your finances figured out. So if like you don't have like 30 million lying there on the account, so if you normally have 5 to 6, and now you want to buy a car at 6 million, but you know if you don't buy that car at 6 million, you also have a house that is not complete, or you have a sick sister, or you have a relative that will need that money, and it will be very hard for you to say no to that person. You get? So I understand that majority of us might be at that point in our life where if we don't really practice focus on the important bits of our lives, that we may never achieve the things that we want to achieve. We are at the point in our life where even your family will tell you, you get what I'm saying? I have an uncle of mine who drove for most of his youth. He had cars, but when he got to his 60s, according to him, he realized that he did not need a car. So the first thing that happened is that his driving license expired, and then he sold the car he had, and then he used the money to buy land, and then according to him, he realized that we don't need a car. And just like that, they don't have a car at home, because according to him, they don't need a car. You get? And he might actually be true. He might be correct. Ayinza okuba omutuufu mu nsonga ye nti he has decided to not buy a car again because, well, it's wastage of money, because he's not going to be driving it every day. And that might be totally true. He's the kind of person that has like 10 acres of land, and all his work is on these 10 acres of land. You get what I'm saying? So it's a possibility that for him, he doesn't really need this car. But I want you to think, morning, Barry. Martha, I'm kindly asking you to send Uncle Arthur your picture so that he forwards it to me. Nange Kalendi se kumaso just china mal. So he might be right, but Arthur, from where I'm standing, I cannot wake up one morning and say we don't need a car. Okay, I cannot wake up one morning and say, okay, let's buy a motorcycle, because, well, it's cheaper to ride a motorcycle to work, and it's cheaper to maintain. You get? And I can ride border when I'm not working. I can't just wake up and decide that, because that would be me losing focus on the important bits of life. For example, my kids go to school. Is it cheaper for me to pay for a school van than for me to drive them to school myself? And how much do you pay the school van every term to take your kids to school? That's one thing to think about. How much do you spend on the school van annually? And if you drove your kids to school, which is like, okay, you drive the kids to school, which is on your way to work, would you save money if you drove them, or would you actually spend more? That's something to also think about, because then when you start adding that up, you're starting to find the right points of focus. You get? Other than thinking the way your grandmothers and grandfathers thought, because if for someone that doesn't have a car, definitely putting your kids in a school van is cheaper, because what other option do you have? And for a stay-at-home mother, walking your kids to school, if it's near, is definitely cheaper than buying a car. For a border rider, riding your kids to school on your border is definitely cheaper than buying a car. Okay, that's the focus we are talking about. You need to focus on the important bits. But let's say that apart from just you driving yourself to work, you have actually decided that I'm going to buy a car because I want to buy a car. Sagara kufanga siguze motoka. Okay, then we go back and start looking at what should be our focus points. Okay, the first focus point should be, how much do I make a year? Okay, and yesterday in our live broadcast in the evening, someone said, I think it was, I don't really remember his name because it wasn't really a name, it was, I think, an alias. So he said that you should be spending not more than 10% of your annual income on fixing your car. That's an overstretch, and I'm thinking that's something. What's happening? You wake him up. And I'm thinking that he's using statistics of someone that has bought a new car. And you know, these are statistics that normally we read. Those are things that we read on the internet that have been written by people that buy brand new cars. Because if I bought a brand new car, I would not even want to spend 10% on maintaining my car. You get? But if you bought a car in a condition of, if you bought an Ipsum at 6 million, for you to tell me that you're going to spend only 10% of your annual income, that means you really make some car money. Omusajja wa tax oba akyamawa kati ffe buli omu ali mu kutuyisa tulinga abatategeera oba ali mu kuyita abasaabaze kabaka mwanga. Yeah, so focus is not just you looking at that Land Cruiser TX and saying, okay, I want to buy that TX in the next 5 years. It's actually you thinking, will I even be able to afford the TX in 5 years? Because you're focusing on the important bits. One of the important bits in your life is the income that you make. How much do I make annually? If I collected all the money I save after my expenses that year, will I be able to afford that car? And then after affording that car, let's say you could afford it, will you be able to afford maintaining it? That means servicing it. That means putting tires on the car. That means buying a license for it. That means putting insurance on that car. That means fueling it. I don't know if I make sense. So you focus on the important bits. You get. And normally when I talk to people, of course I don't go this deep when I'm talking to people, but these are things that you need to think about before you decide, okay, I'm going to buy a Spacio new model, or I'm going to buy, but you're late. Okay. Before you decide that, okay, I'm going to buy, but I can't stop here. Let me go forward. Before you say, I'm going to buy a Mac X, because I've seen plenty of people that are interested in the Mac X. And I've been telling you guys that a Mac X is something that I want to drive. But I've also told you that the Mac X is not something I'm going to buy with my money. It's something I will probably, it's something that I'll probably rent at 100,000 a day for 5 days a week. It makes much more sense for me to spend 500,000 on an experience of driving a Mac X than for me to spend 15 million on buying that machine. You get what I'm saying? So I'm focusing on my important bits. My important bits are that, yes, I could afford to buy that car, but if I could afford to buy that car, will I comfortably, the key word is comfortably, will I comfortably be able to afford to maintain that car on the road, to keep it running without running my pockets dry? Because if at the moment I spend about 20 to 25,000 on fuel every day from home and back home, okay, in a 1.5cc car, how much will I be spending in a 2.5cc car? I'll almost spend double. It means that a person that drives a Mac X, and trust me, I've not seen Mac X's in my place. Abantu bewafe banyo bagezako okufokasinga. A Mac X coming from my home and back, I'll probably be spending about 45 to 50,000 shillings. That is a lot of money. Be careful, there is a ditch. That is a lot of money to be spending on fuel every day. I don't know if I make sense. So my important bits are, yes, I can afford to buy this car, but will I be able to afford to keep it on the road comfortably without running my pockets dry? And then I think to myself, hell no. Then I refocus and I say, okay, kachitugule moto kachi. Tutunulile moto kachi, but what go for upgrading. And then that's when it dawns on me and I say, okay, probably, let's think hybrid. And then I think to myself, if I buy a hybrid, which I'm going to buy at 200,000 kilometers on the clock, will it make sense for me to have that hybrid for the next 5 to 10 years? Because if I'm going to buy a car at more than 40 million, it should be a car that you can keep for 10 years, right? And in the 10 years, how much will it cost me to maintain that car? Like if the batteries die for a hybrid, how much will it cost for me to replace those batteries? And then I think, okay, for me to replace the battery, I might as well buy another car. And then that's when I said, okay, I no longer want a hybrid. I no longer want a Prius. It's not worth it. I can buy a Prius brand new, which I cannot afford. So I quit the Prius totally. And I decide that if you buy a VVTi engine that is in good condition, already my car is old and it gives me 15 to 16 kilometers per liter, which is very, very good for a 2001 model car that has an engine that drinks some oil. You get? So I decide that, okay, at the moment I can afford to change an engine at 2 million. Which take it. But I cannot afford it now. I will afford it in a few months. So I collect my car money until I can afford to comfortably, the keyword is comfortably, put a new engine, okay, and still be able to afford fuel and food at my home. This is something that I've been telling you guys. It doesn't make sense for you to go to the bond, buy a car at 30 million, instead of going to the bond, urayemoroka million 12 n'amafuta obenga osobola okugaffordinga for the next 2 years comfortably. The keyword is comfortably. Focus on the important bits. You get? So you write down your goal. Like my goal is to buy a car. Okay, that's the main goal, that's the big goal. And then on top of that big goal, you write down the nitty-gritties, the details, because the magic is in the details. Then you write down the details. Like on top of buying a car this year, what should I focus on? Fuel efficiency, number 1. Comfort, number 2. Affordable or good maintenance. Cheap maintenance, let's not say cheap, let's say affordable maintenance. That's number 3. And then we say resale value. That's number 4. You get? And then you say those are the things that I'm going to focus on. Okay? All the bad things that might happen along the way should be ignored, because let's face it, you may buy a car that is very affordable to maintain, very good fuel economy, and the car has the engine blows along the way, and then all of a sudden you have to incur costs that you did not look at, like buying a new engine, but the gearbox blows and you have to buy a gearbox. That thing can happen with a car that you thought would be affordable, but it can also happen with your dreams. Now just imagine your dream is to drive a Land Cruiser TX, okay, and you buy it simply because you can afford it, and the gearbox blows, and they tell you the gearbox will cost you 6 million. Yes, it's the car of your dreams, but you cannot afford to replace the gearbox. Those are the people that you find tomorrow.